Hi, it's Tim from AK Endless Sports Cards. The fear of missing out. It gets us all at some point. If you've been collecting for any time at all, or if you're new to collecting, at some point, it'll probably get to you. I'm going to go through some examples that I can think of in football and in basketball, and just kind of explain how my journey has gone as a collector and some of the things that I've learned along the way. So, first name that I can think of is Trevor Simeon. So, Trevor Simeon, I believe, is still in the league. At the time, he became a very, very hot prospect. He was with the Denver Broncos. I recall his contenders autographs. They were sticker autograph. I recall him being named the starting quarterback in Denver, and he came out and played reasonably well. And his contenders autograph was one of the hottest cards in the um, football card hobby. I mean, they went up over $100, and I just remember thinking, man, wish I could get my hands on a Trevor Simeon. But they were always just kind of out of reach, and in the end, it turned out that that was probably a good thing because I actually went on eBay today and checked to see, and as far as I know, he's still in the league. I probably should have looked that up first, but you can buy a contender's autograph or buy it now at $6.99. So Trevor Simeon's the first name that comes to mind for me. Second one is Case Keenum. Case Keenum, I believe, played college football at University of Houston. He went to the Texans, and he actually, early on in his career, when he got an opportunity, he played reasonably well and had pretty decent stats. And I remember thinking, man, the Case Keenum, he could be the long-term answer in Houston. This could be a great quarterback. This could be something. Again, all of his autographs went through the roof. Even his rookie cards went really high. I took a look today. We're in the middle of March here. I took a look today, and you can get a contender's autograph for between $15 and $20. He's another guy that's he's still in the league, and no disrespect to these guys. I mean, hey, you gotta be a great athlete to play in the NFL, and I do respect that. But remember, I'm looking at this from a sports card hobbyist's perspective. And so those are the first two names where you get somebody that gets an opportunity, they play reasonably well, card prices go through the roof, everybody has to have them, and then if things don't work out, the prices just absolutely crash. So let's get to a little bit more of a recent example. Guy who still has a tremendous amount of potential. But Mac Jones. So Mac Jones is one of these examples where some of his earliest cards, I believe the example that I've seen a few times is his Donruss card. When that first came out, I mean, prices were through the roof. I mean, you were paying, well over $100 for a Donruss rookie, and maybe hundreds for higher graded base rookies. Of a guy that I guess people thought the potential was that this is an eventual long-term Brady replacement that could be an awesome quarterback, and he still could be good. I have my own personal feelings about Matt Patricia as offensive coordinator, and I guess the Patriots somewhat agree because they moved on from him. Being a Lions fan, didn't really necessarily think that was going to be a great fit. So New England's kind of moved on for him. Hey, Mac Jones still could be an exceptional quarterback. We will wait. We will wait and see. But those base rookies going way up early and being really expensive came crashing down within weeks. It's like that with a lot of products. The first time these things come out, it's the newest, hottest thing. If they're cards that you really want, you're probably just best to kind of wait on some of those things. If it's really low numbered or rare, that could be a different story. You might not run into a lot of those in the future, but generally speaking, if they're just base cards and they're easy to find cards, best course of action, in my experience, has been to wait. Let's go to one more. Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy, in my opinion, was a really great story this year with the 49ers. They had a couple of quarterbacks get hurt. They had Trey Lance go down with injury. Jimmy Garoppolo, who now is going to be going to the Raiders. That's going to be interesting. He went down with injury also. And then you had a third stringer, Brock Purdy, come in there and started off with pretty good stats, and they were winning games. I have to admit that this was a tough one for me because I really liked the Brock Purdy story. And I do think that the guy still has some pretty decent potential. But, when his cards just started skyrocketing when San Francisco made it into the playoffs and when he was winning these games, and it was pretty tempting to go out and try to pick up some Brock Purdy rookie cards. And eventually I just kind of decided not to. Unfortunately, he ends up getting injured. He ends up having Tommy John, I believe, surgery. And I do think that he still has a future. But the point is that, in my opinion, you shouldn't let the fear of missing out lead you to make rash, expensive buying decisions on players when most often, even if somebody becomes a star, you can either get their cards cheaper later, or if you just wait until you find a player that develops and is productive and has played in a league for a longer period of time, even if you have to pay more for their cards over time, the thing to think about is how often you look to speculate on these players just because they're the next best thing. If you just kind of save that money and buy these types of players, it's one thing, if they play for your team, and you decide to PC that player. Hey, I have a personal collection of Denard Robinson, Michigan standout. If you didn't see my previous video on that with Precious Metal Gems, give it a look. But I'm a fan of Denard Robinson. He was an outstanding college player, had a relatively short NFL career. So there's no judgment or anything. But if you're looking at the long-term perspective, speculating just because you think that you want to get the next best thing typically doesn't work out. Basketball, I have one example here. Cam Thomas is a recent example in basketball. So, the Nets end up trading Kyrie Irving, and then they end up trading Kevin Durant. And so Cam Thomas kind of emerges on the scene. He has 40-point games, and this guy is just going to be amazing. And, his cards, at least temporarily went through the roof. You saw a huge spike because, this guy is going to be absolutely awesome. And it was really cool because people started getting excited about that wax again. It's Cade Cunningham's year, so there's already quite a few good players in that wax. But, that just, supercharges the wax temporarily. I went ahead and took a look at some stats and things like that today, and I've noticed that since those 40-point games, he's had some DMPs, which means did not play, and he's had some games in the 3 to 5 points per game range. And so, I went and took a look at some of his optic rookies and things like that, and base rookies, buck or two. So he's another guy that, and again, he could have a bright future, who knows. But it's that initial, hey, this person's performing, I got to get those cards right now, that I usually try to avoid. So, take it for what it's worth. Sometimes it's fun to chase. I have a few, going back to Brock Purdy just momentarily, I have a few Mosaic football blasters. And I did think that, man, if the 49ers go all the way to the Super Bowl, this could be an amazing story. And it would be fun to chase Brock Purdy, but I ended up just leaving them sealed. And I kind of like collecting some wax anyway. And so I didn't end up cracking any of those. But, and Brock Purdy still could be a star. Well, we shall see. But in basketball, to me, it seems a little more rare. Just in looking at my list here, but Cam Thomas would be a good recent example in terms of this season. So one of the things that I've picked up on over time is if you have a really good incoming class, Whether it be football or whether it be basketball. Baseball to me is a whole nother deal. Um, I don't buy baseball prospects. I know that there's people out there that spend hundreds of dollars and thousands of dollars. There's no judgment. You collect how you want to collect. That's totally fine. Not my thing. Um, but I have noticed that when a new football class comes out that's highly regarded, or a new basketball class comes out, there are all kinds of opportunities to buy cards of players that had been in the league for 2-3 years or even more that people just kind of forget about. And I'm not even necessarily just talking about like on eBay. When you go to shows, you find some of these types of opportunities. People kind of forget about some of these players, even if they're stars, multi-year stars in the NFL or in basketball. So I'm usually on the lookout when there's a new product that comes out or a new class that comes out, and everybody's looking for the next big thing. I start looking back at older stuff to see if there's good deals. Sometimes there aren't any. It's not like a foolproof thing that I do, but it's successful at times. So, just something to think about. Um, One last thing. So sometimes when I have little money into certain cards, I'm going to give you a specific example. So when Deshaun Watson was a rookie, he's in the same draft class as Mahomes. Well, when his cards first came out back in 17 into 18, his Prism rookie cards were like $10, $15, right? And so I had bought one that was really, really great condition, and I actually got it graded within the past year, and it got a PSA 10. So I was pretty pumped about that. I knew that he had gotten into the trouble that he had, and just for me, Deshaun Watson. I think has been a really good NFL player, and he still has a chance to perform at a superstar level. He's just not a guy that I'm going to collect, and that's just my opinion. But he's very talented, and so when that came back at 10. And they made the announcement that he was going to come back for the Browns this year, I ended up looking to trade that rookie card. At the time, it was worth about $300 for PSA 10 Prism. And so I actually went to a trade night in Anchorage. Remember, I live in Alaska. And I traded the card. And it was a straight across trade. And values were very, very, very similar at the time, about 300 for 300. And the card that I traded that Watson for, I still have. And that's a Topps Aaron Rodgers rookie card and a PSA 10. If you flash forward to today, Watson had kind of a tough year, but he came in after missing a lot of games, so kind of to be expected, I guess. I just decided the Rodgers is still like a $300 card, $320, whatever. Watson is in that $200 range, but has some upside. I guess Rodgers does too, technically, depending on where he ends up going. They're talking Jets, so we'll see. My idea there was Watson was a guy that I wasn't going to collect, and I had very little into that card. Whereas Rodgers, even though he's not my favorite quarterback, he is a first ballot Hall of Famer. And if nothing else, he's a solid trade chip for a future deal where I can kind of lock in some value there. So occasionally I'll look to do that as well. And so just some thoughts on the fear of missing out today, and how that can really lead to values going up. And I guess that's kind of how I tie the Watson to this topic, because when it was announced that he was coming back and it was getting closer to that date, those values kept going up, because people thought, man, if he comes in and he plays amazing, that there's a chance that these cards are going to skyrocket. And I guess in that sense it was a risk for me too to trade it, because it could have happened, but it didn't. And now if I want to buy that card back, I could for cheaper than the value I got for it in trade, but I probably will not. And so I wanted to share some thoughts with you about the fear of missing out, because I've been through this as a collector multiple times. It's always tempting. It's always fun to think about. Man, I'd like to get in on the ground floor of this guy, but prices go up so fast. It's typically pretty hard to do. And so I have some extra time this week. I'm on vacation this week, so have some time off. And I do enjoy making YouTube videos and sharing my experiences with you. And as always, if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. And remember that whether you live in Alaska or anywhere else in the world, the opportunities for collecting sports cards are endless.